Being a Buccaneers fan, one of my favorite players to cheer for over the years was the Muscle Hamster himself, Doug Martin. I know apparently he hates the nickname, but I don't care because I love it. He was just an explosive player, and he had multiple very good seasons for Tampa Bay. But it was cool to see Doug Martin in Oakland still be able to have some success. I definitely don't think he's an every down back, but he can be a solid number 2 back in my opinion. And since they drafted Josh Jacobs, I think Doug Martin can definitely be a very good number 2 back, and I think that could be very good for that Oakland offense. One of the things that makes him effective is something like this, where basically what's first going to happen is they're going to have their right tackle and right guard double team that Bronco right over there. And since it's man coverage, this now means that those two Broncos are going to be in charge of covering those two Raiders right over there. And you always love to run against man coverage for this very reason. Because now if you're Oakland, you can send your tight end over to the left side of the screen, and you can also send that receiver over to the left side of the screen. And in theory, the Broncos could end up actually running over in that direction. And if you take a look, that's going to be exactly what happens. I mean, every Bronco goes to the left side of the screen, and then the double team on the right side of the screen is going to be good enough that Doug Martin will easily be able to turn the corner and pick up a ton of yards. But here's what I like about him here. Yes, this offensive line just did a perfect job. I mean, you can't ask for a better situation than that if you're Doug Martin. But look at how he is able to, from there, run all the way into the end zone. Look at that, just explosiveness. That's one of the things that Martin has always had throughout his career. Certain running backs are home run hitters, and Doug Martin absolutely is a home run hitter. He's just the type of guy that you give him enough carries, he will eventually get a 50-yard plus run. But that one was kind of more, the offensive line doing their part. Let's show when the offensive line doesn't really do their part. As of right here, it's going to be all one-on-one matchups across the board, and actually that Denver Bronco right there is going to be unblocked on this play. However, once this play develops, these one-on-one matchups didn't really do a great job here, as Doug Martin really has nowhere to go. But of course, he can't break to the outside because there's someone unblocked. And no, by the way, maybe I should mention that person who's unblocked is Von Miller, who, he's okay. He's got potential. So what's Martin going to do? Well, he's going to fake as it was going that way, but then run back to the right and just completely fake out Miller. He knew exactly how close he could get to Miller while still being able to get away, which is knowing his speed and knowing Von Miller's speed. So from here, he can try to run to the right side of the screen, but of course, there's not really a lot of room for him to run. There's two Broncos who could try to get into this play, so he's going to have to get through that gap in a hurry, but that's exactly what he's going to do. He gets through the gap and is able to pick up way more yards than he should have been able to on that play. That's something that at his best, he was doing consistently, and even now at his worst, he's still doing somewhat well. I know people think 30-year-old running back probably doesn't have it anymore, but it is worth mentioning he only has 1,322 total rushing attempts throughout his career. Just for comparison, Ezekiel Elliott has 868 rushing attempts, so the rushing attempts is definitely on the low side. So sometimes you say it's not the age, it's the mileage, and really it's kind of both. I mean, definitely the age will slow you down to a degree, but at least he doesn't have a ton of attempts as opposed to many other 30-year-old running backs. Really, while Martin can make something out of nothing, I think he's actually at his best when the offensive line does a good enough job blocking for him. Like on this play, it's once again going to be all one-on-one matchups across the board, but since Oakland is going to do a very good job of making their blocks on this one, it's going to be a very good play. The reason for that is because that's what Doug Martin's supposed to do, just run straight up the middle and hope everyone makes their blocks. That's what happens, and also look at how Martin is so quickly able to run through that gap, very quickly. Then from there, he only has one man to beat, but look at how he's going to be able to go about doing this. He lowers the shoulder, and that takes a lot to bring him down. Martin was able to pick up another 5 or 6 yards just because he kept running forward and lowered his shoulder like that. He has that leg strength that's just so unbelievable, and even though a safety hit him with all his force, he still kept going forward and very far forward. He's got that great running ability, and honestly, he could also just be a very good mentor for Josh Jacobs. Another play that'll show off his talents is this one. Basically, what Oakland is going to do is have 2 double teams right there in the middle of the screen, but then obviously someone will get off those double teams, and each will be in charge of blocking a linebacker. There also appears to be a Kansas City Chief who's unblocked right now, however, he won't be because Oakland does have a tight end pulling over to the left side of the screen to block him. So this is supposed to be run through the middle of the screen, however, take a look at what's going to end up happening here. The tight end does a good enough job of getting low because, he's basically on the ground right now, but he's going to be able to make this block. Meanwhile, the double team right over there is working out very well, so there actually is a hole in that left side of the screen. But also, take a look at Martin and take a look at his eyes here. He's looking around. Everyone talks about reads as a quarterback, but a running back has to be able to make reads as well, and Martin is going to be able to make a read here. He's going to cut over to the left side of the screen and get through that gap that way. Now, that Kansas City Chiefs should be able to bring him down, especially because he was coming to the left and Doug Martin was going to the right. However, Martin, again, reads the situation and knows he can cut further to the right. He gets past this tackle, and now he's able to pick up even more yards. That's just good running by Doug Martin, and it's kind of unbelievable that he's still actually been able to have a decent season last year. The guy's had a crazy career. He averaged 4.6 yards in his first season, then 3.6, 3.7, so then it seemed like he wasn't going to be very good. But then he went back up to 4.9 in 2015, before averaging 2.9 his next 2 seasons, once again making it seem like he's going to be out of the league, only to again have a bounce-back season and have 4.2 yards with the Oakland Raiders last year. Not to mention another 100 plus receiving yards. So this guy had over 800 total scrimmage yards last year, which is definitely very valuable for a guy who didn't get a ton of snaps. I think he's actually in the perfect situation for Oakland right now of being their number 2 halfback in my opinion. He can stay fresh and still has those explosive plays, but they also don't have to rely on him because they will have a number 1 back in Josh Jacobs. And I also am very pro Josh Jacobs. So, with this quick film study, I figured this is kind of the perfect player to talk about. Just break down a little bit of a guy who definitely isn't going to be a huge impact player, but he will play his role, and I think he can play his role very well. Could he be a 1,000-yard back? Personally, I would say probably not as a number 2 back, but can he be an absolute contributor? I don't think just he can, I think he will.